Welcome to The Anxious Woman. First video with the new name. Nothing's changed. Still me, still poet, still from the state of Pennsylvania, still a widow, still newly married. Still have my coffee. Just made it a little while ago. Super good. I got a bunch of subscribers. I don't have a clue how or why, but I'm grateful. Thank you. This month of May, there is the anniversary of the death of my mother on the 13th. The anniversary of the death of George's brother, the 14th. George is my new husband. The death of his father on the 20th. The death of my brother on the 30th. The death of my brother-in-law on the 22nd. The death of my youngest son's godfather on the 30th. And then there's also birthdays, many. But what do you feel when you know for a fact that your partner is dying? He's dying. You can't stop it. With all of your knowledge, everything I knew as a CNA, everything I knew as a woman that had worked in a hospital, in a trauma unit, in intensive care, all the care I gave my dad, family members, friends, neighbors, seniors that I worked for, cared for. My partner of 14 years was dying. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't change it. I couldn't slow it down. I couldn't stop it. But up here, as the time went on, I went into a feeling of it's not going to happen. You know, he's not going to die. He's not going to leave. He's not going to go. This is temporary. He'll get better. He'll improve. One more day, we'll get better. He'll get better. He'll feel better. He'll eat better. He'll start walking around. For me, what happened to me? First off, I became invisible. I became so invisible to family, my partner's family, the doctor, the hospital, the nurses, hospice, everybody and anybody, invisible. I was just invisible. The focus was on Sky, the man who was leaving this world. No one said, "How are you doing? Are you okay?" Because I was the one with the anxiety and the panic and on disability. I was the one falling to pieces, but he was the one dying. But aren't we all dying? From the second we're born, we're dying. Always, cause of death should be birth. Cause of death is always birth. So he got sicker. Then as he got sicker, I got sicker. Not only was I dealing with my everyday and every night anxiety, the 24/7, it never leaves me, the panic every day never leaves me, the lack of support, the lack of help with counseling, with assistance in the neighborhood, like anything, nothing, there was nothing. So as I dealt with that everyday existence, I was trying to drive my car to get what foods he could swallow, pudding and yogurt and cottage cheese and applesauce, not bothering to do a lot with what I could swallow, having a globus interference in the throat from anxiety, a blocking of normal swallowing, this feeling of being strangled every time I try to swallow. My focus was on what could he swallow? What could he eat? I lost weight more and more and more until I got down to 89, 90 pounds. No one in the medical community stopped to say there might be a problem here. Because what they did say was, well, you're a 24/7 caregiver, so you're not going to be yourself right now. Not really what could we do for you. My hair fell out. It's just now, after a year and 3 or so months, because Sky left this earth February 27th last year, so it's been a year and a couple of months. My hair is just now getting to hair. It's just now getting a length, a body, a fullness a little bit. My skin was dry and there was nothing, the dark circles, the raccoon eyes that I couldn't get away from. My nails just snapping off, just breaking and snapping because I wasn't getting the vitamins and the nutrients and all the things that I needed to. My sleep, that was non-existent. There's insomnia, and then you just don't sleep because the man in the next room is dying. And you never know what state you're going to find him in. There's not lessons on that. There's books, but there's not like lessons. Like, there was no 24/7 someone with me to be any kind of support for that kind of thing. And then I ask myself, what could any one person have done? My stomach hurt all the time. All the time. Something would change in Sky's system. Something would change. He would lose another part of himself. He had multiple system atrophy, which means that his systems would just harden and stop working one by one. And as each system died in his body, another thing changed. And that meant another thing changed for me in caring for him. So there was always a surprise. There was always something new. There was always a new thing for me to tackle. There was always a new fear, a new threat of him leaving. Sitting through the funeral director coming to our apartment and listening to him pick power of attorney and advance directive and his will and his cremation wishes and what he didn't want No obituary, no funeral, no nothing, no life support, no extra help. And I'm sitting there like, no, don't say any of that, don't. But I knew that no matter what was done, it wasn't going to change the outcome. And then you take all that information and you put it back here somewhere, because it's like the long death. It wasn't like a car accident or an overdose or a crime scene. You know, it wasn't sudden. It wasn't a sudden cardiac event. It was long. It was years. So all those years were my years, like they were his years. My anxiety got to a place of not being able to concentrate, not being able to read and remember things, not finding enjoyment in television, in music, in people, in conversation, in anything. Because I wanted to say to everyone, my partner is home alone and he's dying. But you don't say that, because who wants to hear that? That throws the fear of the universe into you. You can't say, I'm falling apart, I'm frightened, I'm scared, I'm more anxious than ever. Can you do something? Could he have gone into a home where someone else could face that? Yes, but no. No, his wishes were to be there in his home that he knew. And so that's what we did. And so every day, he got a little worse, and I got a little worse. The pain in my shoulders, in my spine, from holding myself like this. The pain in my back from moving him and turning him. The pain in my sides, in my knees, in my legs. The severe, the stomach cramps, when I thought, oh my God, is this it? Is this the time? Things physically happening to him where I had to run to the phone to call the doctor's office. Like, this is what's going on now. What do I do? I don't know what to do. And so my stomach would churn and twist, and I would have to run to the bathroom. It was never a peaceful time for him or for I. If he would get pain medicine and fall asleep, and I would check his breathing, check his heart rate, make sure he was sitting in the right position, help him to sit up, wash him, change him, dress him, hold him while he cried. But there wasn't anyone that could hold me while I cried. I don't know how many people out there are solo caregivers with no one around. The toll that it takes on your mental body is horrendous. The toll that it takes on your physical body is horrendous. He's dying. You're dying in your own way. And your anxiety and your panic is just 100-fold worse. So much worse. And it's like you get to this place where after a few years of 24/7, you want it done. You just want it to be over so you can just take a breath. And then comes the guilt Like, did I just say that? Did I just think that? And then it's what is it going to be like when he's gone? What's going to happen? What do I do? How do I feel? And then it starts all over again. The day he died, February 27th, it was at night. It was about 8:30, 8:35. When the nurse came in, she put down on the death certificate, I believe she put like 9:30, 9:45. If I had waited to call her, if I had just sat with him longer, I could have pushed it to after midnight, which would put his death date as February 28th. I could have done that, but I know when his heart stopped. And he was really big with numbers, and 2 and 7 equals 9, and you can divide the number 3 into 9 evenly. And that number 3 division was really important to him. So when they took him out of my apartment, and he was all dressed, and I took his earring out of his ear and put it in my ear, and I snipped a little bit of his beard, and I kissed him and I hugged him. And they carried him out, and I watched as they put him in the car. And I thought about how long it had been since he had been in any kind of car. It had been about 4 months since he had been out of the apartment, because he had a hospital stay in October, and the ambulance took him, and he was gone. And then the next day, the funeral director asked me, did I want to see him again? And I needed to sign a paper to have him cremated, to give my okay. I remember feeling sick and numb and gray and empty and hollow and relieved, and all that, all at the same time. That was a Wednesday. The following Monday, they brought his ashes over, still warm in the bag. And I remember looking at the bag of ashes, thinking, this is my partner. This is the person who spoke Scottish Gaelic, who wired bonsai trees, who worked at Lowe's. I knew then that I was never going to be okay again. And I haven't been. And I'm still not okay. And I'm never going to be okay. Jim Carrey said in a piece, you don't get over it, you go with it. You go with grief. I'll write down a whole excerpt that he talked about grief. And the anxiety, the anxious woman in me got 1,000 times more anxious my psychiatrist up to my benzodiazepine from 3 milligrams to 4, so that I didn't just go crazy. And there were days and weeks and months that were a blur, and still are. I look back and I can't remember a lot of what I did, what I said. What happened. Panic just got worse. And it gets worse every day. It gets worse. The anxiety gets worse every single day. There's no getting better. It doesn't get better. Sometimes I think he's still alive. He just is somewhere here, and I'll see him again. And I ask myself, what can I do that I haven't already done to stop this anxiousness? How much more green tea, how much more meditation, how much more walking, how much more medication, how much more all that before I start to feel better? And there's no answers, because it's a lifetime for me, and it's going to be till the rest of my life. So if you're dealing with anxiety and you're dealing with panic and you're dealing with caring for a loved one, let me know if you have a support team. Let me know what you're doing for yourself. Let me know how you are. Really. How are you really? Because I get it. I understand. That's it. I'm going to go. I'll talk to you soon.